Are you all seeing our screen?
No.
Right, let's reshare again. Are you seeing?
Yes, thanks, we can see.
Yes, Tom, you can proceed now.
All right, good evening, gentlemen, and once again, apologies for the delay of the start of this webinar. As the oil and gas team, we put together some presentation slides that we thought would be able to focus on the issues in the oil and gas. So in terms of the topics, we'll have an initial overview of the oil and gas industry. We'll look at the current state of oil and gas in Kenya, the regulations, engineering in the industry, the current challenges faced in Kenya. Then we'll make a specific focus on the upstream side of the business, looking at the challenges in that sector, the policy framework, and how it impacts or affects engineering, and where the Kenyan oil status is. We'll do a conclusion before we open up the floor for open discussion. In terms of the overview, the oil and gas industry, looking at it from a global perspective, is quite, has a high influence in terms of the geopolitics. It has also gone through phases of industrial revolution and technological advancements. Basically, oil and gas has been the driver of development globally in the world for quite a long while. And the primary source of fuel for transport, industrial, and for domestic sectors. So in terms of contributions, about 3% of the global economic growth, with petroleum being one of the main drivers for the Kenyan economy. Because of it's affordable, it's been accessible, and in terms of technology, sport has been driving a lot of the energy sector. So it's a critical source of energy for all the sectors of the economy. And by and large, just beyond the fuel and by petrochemical products, we have other areas that it extends to in terms of the byproducts that come out of the refining process. So you have bitumen, you have paints, you have synthetic fabrics, pharmaceuticals, food additives, and home products. The next slide. So in terms of oil and gas, it's split into three main sectors, where we have the upstream, midstream, and downstream. Upstream is mainly looking at the exploration and production of oil, while midstream focuses more on the transportation once the oil has been produced from the ground, its storage, its refining into the different products. And then we have the downstream sector, which is more looking at the retail side in terms of distribution and the end, how the product gets to the end customer. So in this presentation, we will find that we're focusing more on the upstream business. So as you see from this slide, it's quite a wide area of field of study, but we'll try and focus on upstream, given the time limitations that we had, to be able to give you something that is concrete. But all areas are important in the energy sector, but we'll focus on the upstream side. So in terms of Kenya, we don't have oil as yet in terms of actual production. We have the reserves, but we've not gone to full production. I think there's an initial pilot from the Turkana area, and I think Kennedy will take us through that in his presentation. But we rely a lot on the imports for our demands and number in terms of volumes. We're looking at 8.1 million metric tons using the figures as of June 2024. The oil importation for a long time has been through the open tender system, where all players come on board, the current registered players, and then they would do a bid, and the Ministry of Energy would decide who brings in the product. Previously, Kenya had a refinery in Mombasa. So if you remember the first slide, so refinery would fall under the category of midstream, but we don't have it anymore. In terms of the flow of products in the sector in Kenya, we are driven by two main jetties: Kipevu Oil Jetty (KOT) or Shimanzi Oil Terminal (SOT). And the diagram in front of you is just to give you the kind of infrastructure that gets the product to the different areas. So the key infrastructure there is a pipeline that transports the products all the way to KPC in Eldoret. Next slide, Kennedy. This other slide is quite a busy slide, but the key message is that whereas if you look at the extreme end on the right-hand side, you see the number of jetties that we have. And then in the middle of that are how the storage and handling is done. But predominantly, what you'll see is that we still rely a lot on transport or in terms of road to transport products. Just to give you a sense, to bring it into relevance, today there are very many LPG facilities currently being constructed in Mombasa, but we don't have an LPG pipeline. So we rely on the road transport to move gas from the port to inland. How efficient is that? We all know that mass movement of goods is normally more efficient. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that area. Next slide, Kennedy. So in terms of our neighbors, we have a lot of reserves. In fact, the whole of East Africa region, from DRC to Uganda to Tanzania, there are a lot of reserves of oil and gas. Kenya had its pilot with Talo in the northern side. And the gas resources are also found in Lamu Basin. Mozambique also has a lot of gas reserves, natural gas, that is. In some terminologies, you hear people talk about liquefied natural gas, which is a key transition fuel currently for production of electricity. And then you have Uganda also, which is currently doing a huge production with a pipeline that's going to run all the way to Tanzania under the ECOP project. Okay, next slide. So in terms of regulators, these are the main players we have in Kenya: EPRA, NEMA, KEBS, KRA, and then I mentioned NEMA already. So in terms of all those, the different parliamentary acts that have been put in place to govern the industry. So you find in upstream, some would be more predominant, and downstream, others would be more predominant, like KEBS being very critical when you look at the quality of product that actually gets to the end consumer or what is licensed within the East Africa region. Next slide. So the role of engineering in oil and gas, maybe Kennedy, you want to take it from here?
Yes, Tom. Wesley, could you please mute engineer? Yes, Tom, thank you for the wonderful section that you just presented. What is the role of engineering in this wide industry, the oil and gas industry? Just want to highlight that engineers are at the center of the industry. Everything that's in the industry is about engineers and what they do. From the discovery of oil, from upstream up to the pump station, which we call the downstream, where it goes into your car. It's all about what engineers are doing. The car that you drive is made by an engineer, the pipeline system, the extraction itself, the production, how it's used, the engines are all about engineers. So therefore, engineers play a critical role in this industry, in the oil and gas. It's also good to note that there are some critical roles that, or rather disciplines, that have been brought in by the oil and gas industry itself that are not previously in the traditional engineering disciplines of mechanical, electrical, chemical, and civil. These new engineering sectors disciplines include petroleum engineers, drilling engineers, reservoir guys also, mud engineers, and there are several other small disciplines that are very highly specialized in this industry. I'm not sure if most of them have been accredited by EBK, but we'll see as we go ahead and find out. In this industry, the biggest role of an engineer is to make sure that, number one, it's fit for purpose. Number two is safety of the asset, environmental protection, operational efficiency, cost effectiveness, and of course, the technological innovations, things that make the wheels move forward quickly on day-to-day requirements. Other focus areas of the engineer here would also include the utilization, which is a key part. How do you use the oil and gas resource depends on what the engineer discovers or innovates. Also to develop the standards and policies that govern it. So in the general challenges that we have for the general industry, number one is inadequate infrastructure for storage. The demand of petroleum products in Kenya is so huge, but we do not have enough distribution network. Like you've seen, you've had in the previous slides, our storage capacity is limited. The distribution system, we only have one pipeline run by the government of Kenya through Kenya Pipeline Corporation. The roads are very, very poor because to access areas like northeastern Kenya, you'll need to use road. There's no pipeline going from Nairobi or Mombasa to Lamu, or Mombasa to Isiolo, or Nairobi to Mandera, the far ends of Kenya. We do not have infrastructure that can safely evacuate products to those areas, and therefore it has to be trucked. That's why you can see every time EPRA updates the prices, Mandera prices are very high than Nairobi prices. So if, for example, Nairobi is 100 shillings, Mandera would be 130 shillings because of those challenges of infrastructure. Another key challenge that also affects basically most part of the of Kenyan businesses and the Kenyan industry is corruption. The cost of acquiring equipment, Kenya being that we import everything, the cost of acquiring the infrastructure itself, building the tanks, building the pipeline, the design, the feed sections, and everything that includes safety, it's very, very high. It's a highly capital-intensive industry, and it requires specialized manpower, which sometimes we import. Previously, Kenya had like 3 welders who could weld a pipeline, a highly specialized oil pipeline. But now we have upgraded, and I think the number of welders, 6G key welders, have gone higher as of today. There's been a lot of training in that industry. But then again, how do we acquire those assets? The process of acquiring them, because most of them are government owned, That's where corruption is a big, big menace here. Another challenge, which is affecting most third world countries, Kenya is a medium world country, is manufacturing. We do not have dedicated manufacturing systems in the country that are clearly dedicated for the oil and gas industry. It's a shared, currently people are sharing, oil and gas industry is sharing with other industries, but that impedes development because the oil and gas industry has specific standards that need to be met in terms of infrastructure. For example, a normal pipeline will talk about ASME standard. Oil and gas pipeline will call for API standards. No, as of today, no factory, no workshop in Kenya is API registered or API certified. They are ISO certified, but none in Kenya is API certified. So small things like pipes, flanges, fittings, bolts, it's unfortunate that we still import them from other countries. Simple bolts like grade B7 bolts, grade 2H bolt nuts, we cannot manufacture locally. And this is a big opportunity for us engineers here who should be able to, as we talk about one of the pillars of the bottom-up economic agenda, which is manufacturing, this is where we need to up our game and start this cottage industry to be able to manufacture such kind of things. That will be able to reduce our problems in terms of utilization of fossil fuels as we go ahead. Again, here, there's something that we have always been saying here, that cottage industries cannot grow without the market. And therefore, GOK, government itself, and the parastatals, who are the biggest consumers, need to do an extensive outsourcing from the local private sector so that they can have market and grow. That way is how we can, the local manufacturing sector can advance quickly. Without market, they cannot do anything. There's also very limited regulatory framework and enforcement. We have EPRA, what they do, and vis-a-vis enforcement through the police. We do not have, I don't think we have a dedicated oil and gas police in country. Maybe it's the one we call critical infrastructure police, but there's a requirement, there's a laxity there that EPRA need to work with their dedicated police to be able to implement some of these frameworks that have been put in place, especially in terms of procurement, fuel adulteration, substandard premises, and then unroadworthy equipment and things that would really or critically cause accidents. We lack also an oil and gas master plan, but this is just developing now through the National Petroleum Policy, which will show you in the next stage. Another big problem, and that's why the costs are going higher, is because we import manpower. There's a lot of knowledge gaps and miss of professional expertise in the field of oil and gas. We lack critical manpower, critical experience that are required to work in the industry. There's also the flawed hiring process. So people would hire people they know and leave the people who are very, very critical, or the few who have the experience and know what to do in the industry. Issues like how we contract contractors and subcontractors is also something that we need to look at. Enforcement of professional ethics. the engineering standards, the overall safety of the facilities that are in the oil and gas, it's still a big problem. And therefore, because it's difficult to enforce where you don't have the correct expertise. A country like Kenya, where we lack the expertise, anyone will come in to do work. Any quack will be able to come in. You can see the issues that we just discussed. You can see on the headlines what such problems have caused us. You people might remember in June 2024, somewhere in there was a massive gas explosion somewhere in Embakasi. This is the first slide here you can see here. That was June last year. It killed around, I think, 10 people and injured many, many others. There was also the Sinai slums in 2011, where hundreds of people got burned through an oil and gas leak from some KPC pipeline. There's also the accident that also occurred. People died there. You can see there was a fire in Mombasa, and then you can see how they do adulteration. People want to mix and make money quickly, make products, make quick money without looking at the safety and the equipment lifetime. We also have those other teething issues that we closed our refinery in 2011. So Kenya now imports everything. KPRL was there from I think 1950s to 2011 when it stopped operation. So we no longer import crude oil and process locally. We import finished products. We've had ups and downs with the upstream, with our oil extraction, the upstream sector. Talo left. I think someone else has now taken over. So it has all been in the headlines. We are now going to focus on the upstream sector, which is the theme of this presentation. So as you've seen in the second slide, the whole upstream sector involves the exploration, how oil is. It starts from seismic tests, aerial, you come down to the ground, you will not see anything. People will do paperwork, but they're looking for oil. It starts from where you're looking for the oil, which we call exploration, looking for it in the sea, looking for it in the land. And then you go to, once you found that, now is where you go to actual drilling, which is still in the upstream sector, and crude processing itself, how to process that crude and push into the pipeline for refinery processing. Our country, we have had very many finds and misses. So people have been looking for oil here and there, but they've found some areas that missed. The key areas here are in the basins of the Lamu, in the offshore, in the deep in the ocean, somewhere near Somali. You heard about the wrangles last time where Somali took Kenya to court. It's about that area. It's a big area where it has been divided into 37 oil blocks. I will show you in the next slides. We also have the area near Mandera and near Marsabit area, Isiolo. Is another block. There are 5 blocks there in the area. Then the Mandera area there has 7 blocks. Of course, on the tertiary rift, coming from top in Turkana down to a place there called Pastanarok or near Namanga. And then the Nyanza Basin there, which is the Kisumu area. Those are also divided into 14 blocks. So the blocks are normally divided, are marked and searched and updated by the State Department of Petroleum. They do periodic update. The last update is what you can see on your screen. The map you are seeing was updated last in February of this year, where you can see all the blocks that are available in Kenya. So those are the areas where oil has been seen to be available. Remember, oil has not been found in these areas, but they are suspected to be available in those areas that you see divided in blocks. It requires exploration, drilling to confirm that actually oil is there. So as at June, we only have 9 petroleum blocks licensed in Kenya out of the 37 or the 57, only 9. You can remember that into Talo already was here. You people remember that there was oil in Turkana, that's the block 10BB, and block 13D up there in the north. That's where oil was discovered. Most of these areas have just gotten shows, but no discovery at all. Again, Kenya has drilled a total of 95 wells, oil wells that have been drilled in the country to date since 1950s. 42 oil discoveries, where they've gotten gas there, but just small shows that need to be, when I say gas, it's the LNG, it's not LPG. So people would confuse, is it LPG or what? Gas means here in this context means liquefied natural gas, liquefiable natural gas. So in 2009, that's when oil was discovered in Kenya. You remember Ngamia 1, that's where it was discovered. It's a very heavy oil, 15-degree API, which means it can flow, but need to be aided in flowing. The other wells that have also been drilled beside Ngamia 1. So total number of wells that have oil confirmed today in Kenya are 32. All of them in block 10BB in Turkana County. In 2019, Talo implemented the early oil pilot scheme between 2018, 2019 to 2022 after COVID. It was good news that Kenya produced 41,000 barrels of oil, and we exported that oil in the year 2022. It was flagged off by the President, Uhuru Kenyatta. The oil was being trucked on the road from Lokichar to Mombasa on a daily basis. KPRL in Mombasa, because it's closed down, reconfigured their tanks and their infrastructure to accommodate crude oil. Now we can export outside instead of bringing in to the country. Something just happened last month, and that's the newest thing on the block today, that the Talo facility that was already developed by the external investor has now been acquired by our local company, Gulf Energy. Many of you might know Gulf Energy from the petrol association, from the petrol stations, but those are separate entities. There is the Gulf Energy, the petroleum in the downstream, and then there's this one that has acquired the Talo assets. So for me, it's good news, and I think it's a good way to go, that Kenyans should manage their own assets. So this dream has come with a lot of challenges. We still very hopeful that Kenya will realize its dream of becoming an oil producer. In 2022, we were very hopeful when oil was sent out of the country and the country got some money from it, that we will be in the league or we will join the OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Producing Countries. But that has now been put on hold for the time being. We're waiting to see what they're going to do and how that's going to fast track with the new acquisition by Gulf Energy. So there's been too much politics around this. People in the country knows this. We've had like two power transitions between two governments, the government of Kibaki and the government of Uhuru Kenyatta. Now we are with the third government after discovery of oil in Kenya. It was discovered in the first government of Mwai Kibaki. The government of Uhuru Kenyatta came and passed. We're now in the government of the President William Ruto, which is also taking over, and we've now gotten the asset back to the nation. We'll see how it goes. So those are issues that have really affected the development of this resource. It's also good to note that the EOPS was being tracked throughout the 2 years. Why was it being tracked? Because we do not have an infrastructure to fast track the production and to put it up. Ideally, oil needs to be transported via pipeline, not via the trucks. It's very expensive and it costs a lot of money. Investors lose money in such kind of ventures. We do not have a crude oil pipeline. We have a finished product pipeline. So someone would ask, why couldn't we reroute the oil from Turkana to join the Kenya pipelines network in, say, Eldoret, which is maybe 200 kilometers? But it doesn't work that way. It requires, that oil is very dirty. You cannot mix it with the clear oil that's coming from imports from Mombasa going upwards into the hinterland. And therefore the country needs to design, procure, and construct a new pipeline for transporting the crude oil from the source in Turkana down to the export area where it can be exported like crude oil, or where it can be refined into finished product. It's a heavy investment. The last time we checked, it was costing the country $3 billion. So we need an investor, a very heavy investor with the government backing to be able to invest in that infrastructure, plus the infrastructure for production, to be able to extract our oil to reduce the cost of energy in the country. Another issue which affects our oil dream is the issue of manpower. I think I need to stress this much more, that without the personnel, without the critical personnel required with critical skills, it will cost us more to be able to extract the natural resource. It is very sad that today, Kenya only has one university that can teach petroleum exploration and production, basically petroleum engineering courses. It's good that Kenyatta University has been accredited by EBK, but it's limited. You can see one university, how many students can they produce in a year? Maybe 100 maximum. So there's a huge skills gap. There are no tertiary institutions that teach or that can fund these skills into the society so that we're able to explore these resources and reduce the cost of production and the cost of everything. There's also lack of proper legal framework. The sharing agreements, production sharing agreements between the central government, the county government, and the community. How the resource is shared. Oil, we do not want oil cars in Kenya. You've seen countries where oil has been discovered. There have been wars There have been civil strife. Civil strifes. There have been a lot of political issues, assassinations, and those and many other things that we do not want to talk about here. So we still do not have these proper legal frameworks to be able to manage production and sharing agreements. How do we share the money that comes out of it? It all comes down to the money and who holds the biggest stake. Is it the community, the local community where the oil is being produced? Is it the county where the oil is being mined? Or is it the national government where all Kenyans can share the natural resource? Those legal frameworks are being worked on, and I think they might be in the final stages, or they are part of the 2019 Act, or Petroleum Policy Act 2019. As I've said previously, we lack local manufacturing. Like you can see, there is no Kenyan company that can send a rig or that owns a drilling rig for oil and gas. None. That tells you how we are lagging behind. No Kenyan company can work in the tier 1 services. Tier 1 services, I mean the services that are core to the extraction of the oil from the ground to the surface. We do not have any Kenyan company that can do those services. We'll need to import, we'll need to bring in people from other countries to be able to do it for us. And when you bring in an external player, you can imagine the costs involved. So engineers, this is a gap that you guys need to fill. It's for you to be able to fill these gaps in terms of manufacturing, machining, simple things like a valve. No country in Kenya manufactures valves. Even repairs, none. These are gaps that we engineers need to capture and be able to go into and explore more. It also requires that, we reduce regulation in manufacturing. We regulate everything too much, and that makes our people run away from or shy away from doing things that they ought to do. We do not also have research facility. Oil and gas requires research. A lot of research is needed into how, first of all, in how to find it, another one in how to develop the equipment that produce it downstream. Number 3 is what kind of oil it is to be able to be refined. It requires a lot of research, but we do not have those research focused areas or research focused facility for the sector. So our universities need to also collaborate with the industry to be able to work on these research areas, the gaps, so that they can close them. Another issue is the finance, money. The industry being highly capital intensive, very highly capital intensive. You need money, you need a lot of capital to be able to move forward in the industry, especially the upstream sector. No bank is focused on financing the upstream sector. Our banks are more on traditional businesses like building a house, real estate, trading, buying here, selling there. I'm very sure today, if you request for a bank loan to buy a lathe machine, the bank will need to look at you twice. Or a CNC machine for that matter. They'll need to look at your books many times before they give you the go-ahead. Other than the banks, also, there's also the insurance part. In this upstream sector, you need insurance of up to $10 million per contractor to be able to run a tool downhole. It requires up to $10 million to be able to run a tool downhole for insurance purposes only. No insurer in Kenya can do that. A few have tried to reinsure through other nations, other big insurance companies, but still they shy away from underwriting those kind of risks. Very huge risks, and therefore they are not able to underwrite them. Or if they do, then the premiums are going to be very, very high. Then there's also the community issues. Oil, as everybody knows, people think it's something with a lot of money, it brings a lot of money, and people always want to get a cake of it, especially the people that own the lands where the oil is being produced from. There are issues around that I think need to be sorted out as we go in the next chapter. It's also the local content requirements. How many of our people need to work there? How many of our engineers need to be employed in this sector? What's the number? What number of these people have the knowledge to be employed in this sector? How much equipment need to be bought in country? How much development of facilities need to be done in country by the investors? So such kind of low content requirements are challenges, because Kenya, being a country that has never produced oil, it is difficult to find someone who can do certain things like in the tier 1 services. It is not easy to get somebody who can do that. But the law, or what we need as citizens, is to let our people do those and the investment remain in country. So those are key challenges in that area. A major challenge that has also affected the whole world is the environmental issues, global warming problems. If you hear about those people, those of you who have attended COP21, COP22, 3 up to COP29, would understand the gravity of this matter. There was COP28 here in Nairobi. I hope I think some of us here attended it. The whole world was talking about reduction of fossil fuel production. The environmentalists are on everyone's neck. I think they have even made our leaders shy away from producing this, going ahead and producing this natural resource to be able to use it. The noises in the environmental sector also makes it difficult for banks or insurance companies to be able to finance and insure such projects. It's very, very difficult for them to insure because of the noise being given out or being found out by the environmentalists. Locally, it's good that we only had one problem. I think it's part of the petroleum, but it's a hard petroleum. It's called coal. That project in Kitui got lost, and because of the environmental issues, which is, in my opinion, is neither here nor there, that project was stopped, and we still have our coal on the ground. I would wish that engineers, if possible, we push, because we need energy in the country. To reduce the coal is one of the ways we can reduce the cost of energy. There are many ways that we can use to be able to reduce the emissions of coal that are coming from the coal. We have the means and ways of reducing those emissions. Many countries are doing it. We can devise our own ways here locally and mine our coal, use it to produce our energy, and reduce the impact on ourselves that they claim on global warming. And then there's also another one, which is linked to personnel. We have a very huge brain drain. And right now, if you compare the year 2022 to 2025 today, if you want an engineer, I mean, the number of personnel we had developed during that time to date, it is very, very, very bad. I mean, it has really gone down. People have moved into other sectors. The skills have been lost. because of the delay, because we delayed a lot in producing this thing. There's back and forth between the investors and the government people. So the people who acquired skills, the few people that were trained during those days, during the 10 years that Talo was in country, and ENI and others, you can no longer find them to employ them in that industry again. If at all Gulf Energy, which is the new acquirer, and other people who are doing the offshore now would want to move forward, then it will be very difficult for them to get personnel to work in those fields today. We have lost personnel, but it needs to be started up again and move forward. Also, the facilities, the few workshops that made way, that invested money in few engineers and other people who invested money and made workshops, no longer have the workshop equipment, and they no longer do those services anymore. And if though the certifications have expired and they're no longer certified to do the services. So what's next? What's next for this industry? This is the industry that can take our country forward, can move us from a middle income economy to a first world economy. So what's happening? What's going next? It's good to know that there is a draft national petroleum policy that's currently being in the draft stage, that's going on. Members of this task force, myself included, we submitted our comments during the stakeholder engagement forums. And we are going to see if the State Department is going to put those comments that we submitted, or they are going to reframe them in one way or another. But we are hopeful that they will adopt them as we submitted those comments. The way the comments were submitted, we hope that they're going to be adopted without any amendments. And this, maybe if the president was here, it should go. It's our wish that IEK should be formally included to participate in these forums as a key stakeholder. IEK was not invited in this petroleum policy development, but us members were there, and we submitted that. So it's good that we be formally included in this policy making. If there's anyone from the Ministry of Energy here, please note that it's something that we request. If you need a meeting with us, we are available. We can always come and have a meeting with you to discuss more on the areas of the national petroleum policy, which is currently going on in the draft stage. So the critical areas where we think that needs to be worked on more as we develop the petroleum policy is in the framework on the promotion of the oil and gas investments. We need to repackage our geoscientific data with a close to call evidence. So you have data that someone needs to work on to be able to know whether it's good data or bad data. But there's some data that if you refine for an investor, they don't need a second guess. They'll just go through it and see, here is a prospective field that I can easily buy and put on. A review of terms and conditions in the arrangements. This is what made Talogo one of the key investments that was here in this country, and others that have always gone out. So many people who came in, so many investors that came in the industry, they left. Mainly because the terms and conditions are very tough. It's good to note that our guys in EPRA, whenever you make these things, note that investors can note in the energy industry is so dynamic. It changes every year. The oil prices changes continuously. You cannot force an investor to make a 30-year plan for a very dynamic industry like oil and gas. So dynamic, geopolitical wise, financial issues, even small things like elections really change the dynamics in the oil and gas sector. And therefore, an investor cannot give you a plan for 30 years or for posterity. It is a plan that you do for 5, 10 years, and then leave a clause for review as it goes on. There's also need for this system to be seen by people online. It's not something that need to be hidden. If you hide it so much, then it will be something very secretive and no one will be interested. The second one is the framework on exploration and development and operations. Production facilities. How many need to be developed? Research in the exploration sector. Field developments. How do you do the feed, front-end engineering designs that are very critical in this? Because if you do a bad feed, gives you a bad construction. So we need to have more critical areas like this policy where we only finalize a feed, we call it test on paper, that is tested on paper before we go for actual construction and production. Local content, very, very important. Oil is a naturally shared resource. It's for the people, by the people, for the people. It's not for the investor alone to enjoy. These are natural resources, and therefore we need a strong policy on local content. Local engineers, local sellers, local manufacturers, local service providers, lawyers, whatever, local banks, local financiers. We need strong policies in these areas. And then there's the big elephant in the room, which is always there, the decarbonization issue, the environmental impact. How we adopt appropriate technologies that adapt to these changes is also very, very important. Those are key areas where we need proper policies. And if they're not well addressed, then we are going to have it all wrong. And then, of course, we have a developed sector, which is now where the common mwananchi will come in and utilize the product. The midstream and the downstream. Of course, the midstream is the pipeline coming from the 800-kilometer pipeline coming from Lokchar, passing through Isiolo, going down to Garissa, and reaching to Lamu through Tana River there. But then again, the refinery. Should we have a refinery or not? Or should we sell our oil without refining it in the country? These are key areas that need proper policies. And we are here to help. We are available to help, and we have made documents sent to the Department of Petroleum, the government, so that they can look at those and evaluate and let us know if they need help. We can always see where to help and assist as we move forward. We also need policies on the adoptions of new technologies, advanced technologies, simpler technologies. Issues like rigless well services, issues like advanced seismic technologies, issues like computerized pipeline systems, heating of the pipeline, because the oil we have in country, I'm talking about the oil only. There's also gas, remember. Our oil is heavy, very heavy. It's like bitumen. When you hit bitumen, that's how the oil is. So if you heat it and you try to pour it down, you can see it sluggishly falls down. That's the crude oil we have in Kenya. The color is also the same. So adoption of certain technologies that are able to maximize the resource so that we get more value out of it. Otherwise, we'll be selling 90% of our oil raw or at a throwaway price. So if we don't have policies that support these advanced technologies, then we'll lose all of it. We'll not gain anything. And then, of course, compliance with the product quality standards. Last month or I think a few months ago, you saw something running on the social media, some Chinese guy testing products in Westlands and telling you that the raw number is low vis-a-vis the actual standard required. So if we comply more on those kind of areas where an end user don't need to go test on the streets with a non-testing equipment, then it will be all for everyone to do. So we need more policy areas on that area. And documents have been submitted in this draft policy that's currently in the draft stage. And we hope that the government or the people in the policy areas in the government office who are legally going to put this binding document are going to put those comments as part of the policy. It's our hope. If anyone here is from the government sector, you can always call us and we'll be able to expound more on this. Now, this is the biggest question that we normally get, and everyone is always asking us, where is the Kenyan oil? And where is it today? And why don't we see it on the streets of Kenya, of Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, and everywhere? My answer to it is this. The oil is still lying down in the subsurface area. So it's still in the rocks down there. You need the engineer, to come up with a mechanism and ways on how you can bring it from ground to the surface. The less cost you use, the better for us and better for everybody. We need investment to bring it to surface. Money is required. People need to invest here. People with money, people with technology, people with equipment to come in and help extract it from the surface, from the subsurface down up to surface. Also, investment is required in how to process it, to make sure that the crude oil is able to run through the pipeline. So you need to process it at source. This also requires investments. That's why the area has been sluggish, because there's a huge amount of money required to be able to process it up in Turkana there. You need facilities like you need water coming from water to come from down to Lokchar, which is over 90 kilometers away. If it is in the sea, you need to have an FPSO for offshore gas production, and then another undersea pipeline to bring it to the shore, maybe somewhere in Lamu or in Mombasa. So this requires a lot of investments. And so the transport, which I've now mentioned now, the pipeline. Pipeline alone was to cost, in 2020, the crude oil pipeline alone was to cost Kenya around $3 billion. So you can look at that, it's almost a quarter of our national budget. It's not a small money. A quarter of our national budget is not small money. And therefore, if we don't have it locally, then we need somebody else from another country to come and give us the money, and we do it and pay him later. And then we also need to invest more in the exploration so that we can get more other areas. You've seen from that map there, areas that have been mapped, well from Mandera coming to Wajir area, going to Kisumu, somewhere there area around Nyakach area, somewhere there around Moroni, coming back up to Kwale area, Kwale, the same area, about Makinon, Kwale, down up to Lunga Lunga. And then this side, there's another area coming up to Narok, going into Masai Mara. Those are areas that we need to explore more. If you are able to bring in equipment, I think the government will open up a bid round for those areas, and they'll be able to award you, if you have the money and the equipment to explore, it will be your take. So it's good news that we can do it ourselves. And we may not need the foreign direct investments, as people always want to say we need FDIs, because sometimes they may never come. You know, Trump is now in power, other presidents are changing, the world is changing, everything is changing. So it's upon us to be able to take up these opportunities and explore them and develop our country. If we conclude, I want to conclude by saying, telling all of us here that we have work to do as engineers. We have a lot of work to do, and it's upon us to take the work. On manufacturing, when we say Kenya will be industrialized by the year 20 whatever, who is going to industrialize it? Who is going to do the machining work? Who is going to do building of the factories? Who is going to do the designs? Who is going to do the procurement? It's us. And who is going to put in utilization of those manufacturing assets? It's unfortunate that majority in our country, as engineers, we are in the maintenance and service only. And we've not touched more on the manufacturing, design, and research and development. So we need to take up areas of research, development, manufacturing, design, manufacturing, and production. We need to take up all those areas so that we are able to change what we are not able to change as of today. We also need to engage in policy making and help the GOK to fine-tune the current draft that the State Department of Petroleum, so that it's a good document that can easily help the nation moving forward. And sometimes it's also good that they put a clause in there for review. It can be a policy, but a policy changes every now and then. So you can find the environment changes next year, this year. So every 5 years, we need to change these policies to be able to adapt to the new changes, environment changes, financial changes, technological changes, and also the changes in the utilization of the oil and gas product. Regulators also, we need to develop sound standards of engineering. We do peer reviews. A lot of peer reviews need to be done so that we are not in silos. You get it, silos where these people do something themselves and the others do themselves. So we need to do a lot of peer-reviewed engineering standards and documents, and collaborate with international bodies like API, ASME, ANSI, and all those other standards that are available. ISO and several other standards, IEC, all the standards. It's good that KEBS is already doing something in terms of ISO and collaboration with the fluid measurements and other things, but we need to do more so that in terms of construction, so that you don't get accidents like the one we have seen happening currently, where an area where they need to have a class 150 flange, they go and weld a plate cut 4 holes in it and make it a flange to connect. They don't care about the leakages, the fumes, it's going to come out there, flammability. So we need to develop, regulators need to be able to, we can help them, we can help you as engineer. And that's why I think the president, Mr. Shamba Kiteme, brought up these forums so that we are able to develop issues that can help regulators like EPRA to develop these sound engineering standards. They also need to support skill development in the country. Having one university is not enough. Kenyatta University is there. Yes, it's currently doing what it can do, but it's not enough. We need the University of Nairobi to be able to do it. We need Technical University of Mombasa to be able to do it. We need Maseno in Kisumu. We need Moi. We need other universities to be able to join in to develop these skills, because oil and gas is not going anywhere. You've seen in the previous slides several areas of its application. Oil is not going anywhere, and let's be cheated. Even the solar panels that people buy and do everything and say is green energy, the components of solar panels are made from oil. There are several components in that are made from the oil products. The cable that you use, the insulation is a petroleum byproduct. So we have a lot, even in your own house, in your food. So oil is not going anywhere. The better, the earlier we develop that and accept that, the better for us. So we need more facilities like this to be able to develop universities, courses, accreditation of courses, small courses in tertiary institutions that are able to bring in the skill faster. We need that. Innovations, people need to, and this is for us here. I mean, we need to innovate more, because we are the engineers of this nation. There are no other engineers that will come to help us here. We are the people in this nation, and it's upon us to take the mantle and grow it. If we don't innovate, then we are not going to depend on Chinese forever. So we need to innovate today, make sure that we do things, we innovate on areas that are actually needed for our own development. We don't need to do groundbreaking innovations, but we need to focus on areas that are really needed for our own development. And in that, and I also stress this, that public sector needs to do more outsourcing. I've seen areas where the public sector want to do everything in-house themselves. Our big parastatals who have the money, who have the capability, who are able to employ, are doing everything themselves. So you wonder, what will Kamau, whose workshop is trying to develop in Kariobangi, where is he going to sell these products or test? Is he new innovation? Who will finance that? So we need to do more of our sourcing so that our cottage industry can always grow. It is the private sector that can adapt to the new changes, that can adapt to cost-cutting measures. The public sector cannot. It will take them many, many days, many, many years to be able to adapt quickly to technological changes, to cost production reduction areas, and things like that. Last but not least, we need to stop the long wait. We need to move forward and start producing our natural resources in Lamu and in Lokichar. The longer we wait, the bad for us. Ngoja ngoja huumiza matumbo. We need not to wait more. If there are guys from EPRA here, know that the longer you wait with the policies, the bad for the country. The longer you wait for investors, the easier for them to run away. So make quick gains, review them faster, and let's move forward. The country start production, and we go ahead with our development. That having said all that, we're going to hand over this mic to you, the plenary. And hear more on what you're going to tell us. We are opening this time now for discussions and questions. Back to you, brother. Any questions? Tom?
Yeah, Kennedy, sorry, I was out. I lost connection. Maybe repeat again.
We are now at the questions and discussions.
Okay.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Agra Bondo. My question will span from recently I got some guy who contacted me that there is going to be another refinery next to Lamu, and I was like, a refinery next to Lamu, yet we have another refinery in Mombasa which was stalled. Question one, what is this refinery going to be revived? This particular one that is there, and if not, what is this other refinery? Who is behind it? Is it the government? Are we killing our own economy?
Okay, Tom, thanks so much. Humphrey? Humphrey?
Okay, I get you. My question is, good evening, guys. My question is, I see that the refinery in Mombasa was closed in 2011. Yeah. And what informed the closure? My thoughts are, this is a cartel country. It was sabotaged because somebody wanted to import and get a big share of the market, because you can clearly see even from the news and general knowledge, if you are a Kenyan that thinks beyond your nose, you can tell. Another question that I've seen in the chat, and also I saw a reply that I didn't feel is sufficient to explain it to me. Why can't we build a refinery in Turkana that processes the refined products? I know bitumen is amongst them, but I'm just trying to think that is easier even to export some of these byproducts to our neighboring countries with agreements that they will pay. If it is the issue of forex, they will pay in like USD or euro, whichever the agreement is, because after all they import them in that particular currency. And then also the local manufacturing, I saw the answer was that the reason you cannot do a refinery in Turkana is it cannot, the local market cannot satisfy the expenses of putting up a refinery in Turkana. But remember, you're not doing it only for Turkana, for Kenya alone. We are doing it also for our neighboring countries. Because if we can import the refined products, it means we can also be a source of the refined products. And another question that I have, the third one, you say that the Gulf energy we are seeing on the petrol station is it's not the same Gulf energy that has just purchased the Tala Oil refinery company. I'm just trying to think around the copyright issues, because if we have a company called Gulf Energy that is running with petrol station, and yet there is another one called Gulf Energy that is buying a refinery in Turkana, and yet they are not the same, I think there is an issue there, even just from the name, Gulf Energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Timothy. Stephen, Tom, do you want to take? Stephen, will come back to you. Stephen and Timothy, we'll come back to you. Tom, do you want to take any of them, or the two questions? Yeah,
let me try, Kennedy. Refinery business and the discussion of refinery is a very long topic. And, it's been a topic that's generated a lot of discussions. But I'll try and make it as simple and as summarized as I can. But again, it's a very big, wide topic with a lot of many variables. When you talk about a refinery, like the Mombasa case, in the world, and I think, Kennedy, in your presentation, you mentioned it, there's something that happens called innovation and technology moving. So you end up being left behind if you don't adapt to the latest technology. And what does it mean? It means that at one point in time, you stop being efficient, you become a drain to the economies in terms of your processes, and you end up not being competitive. So when you look at the world trade, so to speak, and you look at refineries, world over, refineries have closed down just because of that concept of world trade. So when you look at the trades, in terms of which is the most cost-effective product that the market is producing, and you're not competitive, you'll be left out, by natural competitive forces. You'll be pushed out of the market because nobody will buy your product because you're not effective. Now, efficiency in a refinery, don't forget that, for example, the premium product that comes out of a refinery is more or less your white oils, say petrol, so to speak. But if a refinery is producing more of the heavy oils, the fuel oils, the bitumens, which doesn't have the same kind of premium, then you're running an outfit, but it's not giving you returns. I mean, I want to just say it as basically as that. So one of the challenges you face is that the oil and gas industry, whenever you're doing any project for oil and gas, never look at yourself within your country. Look at where is your demand. Compete globally. So what you're saying is right. And one of the things I also say today, even Tanzania, if you know, I'm not Tanzania, Uganda, their oil, their crude is going to be shipped all the way to Tanzania. And the plan is to have the refinery in Tanzania. And the logic is that, you want to put your refinery close to your export market. So you don't put it far away. It's in procurement cycles. I'm an engineer, but maybe I have a little bit of procurement knowledge. There's something called postponement. So you postpone differentiation to the last minute. If you differentiate early, it becomes expensive for you. So you differentiate at the last moment. So what you do with crude when you're exporting it, you're leaving your options open because markets have different demands for different products. So you postpone at that stage so that you can meet the demands of different markets. But again, just if I'm repeating myself, the global space is what defines a lot of the decisions because of the trade flows and your competition that you're facing in the global world. You can hear today that I think the Gulf want to make Pevu to become like a hub for storage. Those are dynamics that are coming in. So some people would decide, okay, we won't create a refinery, but we need storage. So where can we put our storage in East Africa, which enables us to serve the hinterland? So just a few comments on where to put your refinery. It's a critical step in the decision making. Efficiency is a key consideration, and technological development and innovations in the space of refining also becomes a very key issue in that discussion.
All right, thank you, Tom. Just to add on what Thomas said, I think it's who asked it. Someone is Humphrey who asked it, and the first question, someone asked the first question was coming from someone. He said, the refinery in Lamu, who is behind it, and is there a refinery in Lamu? And then I think Humphrey asked another question that why was the refinery in Mombasa closed? And why can we build a refinery in Turkana? I think Thomas tried to answer part of them, but let me just clarify that having worked at those two institutions, I've worked at the KPRL when it was a refinery itself, and I've also worked upstream with those things in Turkana. But now let me just put the clarification that yes, there was in the LabSet project, which was there before, there was a proposal. It's not a refinery, but it was a proposal that in the LabSet project that was coming with the pipeline, there be a refinery there in that whole in the LabSet portfolio. But things went the way they were, and I think currently they are still on hold until the government comes up with another policy. But yes, there was a plan to do a refinery in Lamu. It's not there currently. The port has been built, support there, which is currently built and functional. I'm not sure that it's working. Last time I was there was in 2023. I've not gone back to Lamu again to see what's happening there. The refinery in Mombasa, the question is, why was it closed? So I can tell you from the horse's mouth that it was closed because of technological issues. The refinery in Mombasa was designed to process sweet crude, like we call it sweet. Sweet means that in comparison with the Kenyan one, you here, I told you that when we were doing the presentation, it was 15 degree API in terms of the rating, in how heavy it is. So there's a scale of the heaviness of crude oil and how much nice products it can produce. So it was not able to refine what we have here. And then it was a 1950s refinery. The last one, Complex 2, was built in 1972. You can see those ages. A lot of things have changed. Technology has changed. The efficiencies have changed. And therefore, it needed to be revamped, to be changed into what can easily make money and give value to the nation. Unfortunately, the investor that came in, SR Energy, people can remember SR, the owners of U Telecom, they did not come to terms with the nation, with the government, and therefore they went out and left their shares. And now the government decided to close it down, took all the shares, 100%, sold it to Kenya Pipeline. Now it's a storage facility. The refining part was stopped. I hope we have answered the Humphrey and the other guy. I hope we have answered you. Stephen and Timothy. Stephen, I'll start with you. Stephen Oweru.
Yes, thank you. My name is Stephen, a graduate engineer. I would love to have some clarification on a number of points that you've stated. During your presentation, you stated that Kenya lacks technical skills in the petroleum industry, and that only Kenyatta University produces petroleum engineers. However, we have institutions like the University of Nairobi, also Mount Kenya University, also offering programs in petroleum engineering and exploration. Now my question is, isn't the real challenge less about lack of trained personnel and more about the lack of opportunities for these graduates to apply their skills, given the slow pace and stalled projects like the one for Lokichalam pipeline, the LAPSET one? And furthermore, how does the Engineers Board of Kenya ensure that petroleum engineers from unrecognized or non-accredited programs are accredited and recognized to practice? And then what about IEK? What measures do IEK need to implement to ensure that petroleum engineers are adequately considered in professional development and industry opportunities? Because I tend to think if today you slotted maybe a position in like for example reservoir engineer, you'll get overwhelming application. I'd love to have some clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Timothy, we'll take two questions, then we answer them as we go forward. Timothy Kimandi.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, I'm trying to tap to speak. Getting me tap to speak?
Yes.
Are you getting me?
Yes, Timothy, we are getting you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Engineer Timothy Kiva, Baki Engineers, Oil, Gas, and Renewable Energy, Mombasa, with about 35 years experience in the industry. Mine is actually two comments or questions. Number one, I think as engineers, we've been in the oil and gas industry, we've been enemies unto ourselves in that the East African community in the late 70s and early 80s actually tried to train engineers in some of the areas where we didn't have capacity locally in the 3 universities those days. I remember very well because I was one of the people who benefited from that. They trained aeronautical engineers and petroleum engineers. But upon coming back, all these engineers were denied registration by EBK. And that is in Kenya. And most of them actually fled back to Europe, US, and the UAE. I'm happy to hear that now EBK, although too late, 40 years down the line, they are trying to recognize that petroleum engineering is a discipline, aeronautical engineering and other ICT and so forth. They are actually engineering disciplines. We cannot really rely on the 3 basic engineering disciplines of electrical, mechanical, and civil. Secondly, I think this one I will take it to IK. I know that there's some collaboration between the engineering, societies in the region. What we've noticed is that in the ECOP project, the East African crude oil project from Uganda to Tanga, Kenyan engineers, contractors, suppliers have completely been shut off. And where the principal investors in the project, that is Oil and Total Energy and the Chinese have tried to recruit Kenyans because the experts are there. Uganda and Tanzania cannot match. They have actually been threatened. Thank you.
Thank you, Timothy. Timothy and Stephen, thank you so much. Stephen, can you guys put your hands down now? Because there are several guys online. Tom, would you want to tackle the first question from Stephen? I'll tackle the second question from Mr. Kiva, from the engineer Kiva. Stephen asked about whether it's the personnel or the lack of opportunities for the trained personnel. I think that was his question. And what measures the IEK need to take to be able to develop the trained personnel in the industry. Those are the questions that Stephen made.
Okay, let me try. The portion about IEK, maybe since they're in the call, maybe they would address the specific action on what they want to do. But in terms of technology skills and opportunities, I think for me, they go hand in hand. Remember what we've talked about in the presentation, where we said that investment is key. If you remember the last slide by Kennedy, everything he talked about was about investments. So how does investment come in terms of expertise? You see, the thing is that for everything that you're investing in, you're providing direction. And the providing direction means you realize that there's a gap in a certain area and you invest in it very specifically. So if you don't invest in that specific area and make sure that it works, more from a policy point of view, then you have that gap because it's not structured, it's not deliberate that you're doing this with this in mind. So that is where the training to make sure it's tailor-made, the specific needs that you're looking at comes in terms of investment. Then the second point is around the opportunities. Yes, you might get the training, but if you're not being given the opportunities, remember in the presentation, a lot of the jobs go to external expertise, okay? So the area of local content, if not forcefully enforced and followed through, then you won't get the opportunities to participate, and you won't get the opportunity for the knowledge transfer from the people who already have it, to ensure that you complete the whole package. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Engineer Timothy, I just wanted to highlight a few things that you've said, just to give two clarifications that Kenyan suppliers and engineers are shut off from the ECOP project. Yes, your question must be true, and somehow I can confirm to you that I know there are Kenyan companies and Kenyan engineers who are currently supplying and providing services to the ECOP project, the 1,430 kilometers line from Hoima to Tanga. There are several Kenyans that are currently in that project, supplying engineering services and also engineering products. Maybe you might not have had a chance, but you can consult me. I'll let you know how to go about it.
Kennedy, could I also chime in on?
Go ahead, Dottie.
Okay, with regard to KU offering petroleum engineering, maybe just a clarification. This is not in any way to say there are no other institutions offering. There was one that is recognized by EBK as of now. And of course, I'm not speaking on behalf of EBK, but they have their own way of doing the recognition. We actually have gone through a full cycle to be able to have the program recognized. And so it's asked for offering a degree in petroleum engineering. I'm cognizant of the fact that there are many institutions at different levels offering these very important skills and outputs. What I would just want to add is that, of course, like we mentioned, there are a lot of opportunities that could be there. Today, our focus was on the upstream, and we've already seen that there are immense lost opportunities because of the fact that, one, we are not producing. And of course, when you talk about expertise, we are not just saying the early career engineers, but we're also considering that we, of course, always stand on the shoulders of others. And I'm actually happy to hear that at some point, some petroleum engineers had been trained, probably when I was less than 10 years old. And now we've picked up again to be able to produce our own locally trained engineers to be able to go into very ripe sector. Notwithstanding. On matters of whether the courses will be recognized, again, I don't speak on behalf of EBK, but what I know is that there is a framework that is currently being worked on, and not only for petroleum, but other fields that are not currently recognized. What would be the bridging with regard to recognition by the Engineers Board of Kenya? And I'm sure there's a lot that can be done within the stakeholder engagements. So I just wanted to add, I saw one of the engineer who's his course, and he mentioned in the chat, I think Brian, with regard, and then what are the opportunities that are there for the graduates to be able to engage continuously.
Dot, you're breaking up, or is it me who is hearing? You are breaking up a lot.
It's breaking.
Am I still?
You are still breaking.
You are still breaking a lot. Maybe you can sit somewhere. I know you are out of the country, yes, but please just sit somewhere. It's good to note that Doti is one of the lecturers of petroleum engineering in the country, so she knows much about the petroleum training. If Doti has finished, I'm going to give Hudson and Dan. Your hands are up. Dan, Hanson.
Thank you so much,
Dan.
engineers. This is Dan here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dan.
Okay. Thank you so much. My name is Dan Ondiek. I'm a mechanical engineer. Working in the oil and gas, bulk oil facility, oil handling facility construction. And I have one comment and another one is a suggestion. So based on my experience in this industry, I've actually rarely worked in Kenya. I can confirm to you that there is, I can say maybe skill mismatch with the market demands in Kenya right now. Because an example, when we look at this program, petroleum engineering, which is mainly production, drilling and production, we realize that an example in this case right now, we are producing graduates, but we don't have anywhere within Kenya right now where they can actually apply their skills. Does it mean we are training for the outside world? It's some few get opportunity in drilling, maybe GDC and Kengen, because it's more or less the same drilling aspect. But now the deep into petroleum reservoir studies, since exploration is not really doing well here and production, no production happening right now, maybe it's good to advise our institutions that, yeah, it's good to produce petroleum engineers, but we need to look into the market requirements, not just doing this program in our institutions yet they cannot go anywhere. I can also confirm to you that in the entire region, I mean East and Southern Africa, Kenya has actually the best skill sets. They actually have worked with very many tens or almost hundreds of 60 welders. I can say 80% they come from Kenya. They work in Mozambique, Zambia, Tanzania, Uganda, Southern Sudan, and also back in Kenya. So I know we have the skills. The only opportunity, what is lacking is the opportunity. So I think as our main presenter mentioned, that let's drill our oil, let's produce our oil in whichever means. If we wait, there are a lot of new policies that will be coming in that will not allow maybe this production to go. Investors will run away, and I don't think we'll really gain economically from this oil. Comment number 2. I had a discussion with an individual who was mentioning to me that to set up a refinery in East Africa, it is not economical for one country to set up a refinery. And in his economics, I saw that science, because we need a big flow of crude oil. We need to collaborate. This is now the soft skill that our government is lacking. Our government, when it comes to diplomacy, is really not doing well. It's high time that if these 3 or 4 East African countries can come together, set up one refinery where all this crude oil are directed to, it can actually do very good to all of them. They can agree on maybe a free, duty-free zone where each and everyone maybe dumps his crude oil there, then can re-import the finished product maybe. Yeah, it's good maybe to bring in an investor who can handle the East African crude oil, because Uganda right now is doing it. They're in very few years they will be exporting this crude oil. Kenya is also trying to see a way of producing their crude oil. The same can happen. The Lamu Lamu to Lokichar crude oil, if there is goodwill, political goodwill, maybe it can be extended to those regions of Southern Sudan, so that all this crude oil can be harnessed into one refinery, one efficient refinery, because efficiency in a refinery is what defines everything. You can either go off completely, or you can really do good business in it. So that is my comment, and I really appreciate your presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. That's a good comment there. Yes, true. I know we have so many. I mean, we previously we had few welders, but now we have very many welders, people who can really do good 6G and do good route and capping and everything. They are working everywhere, all over the world. I know this one guy today. There are two people today in Netherlands, and there's another one in Barcelona now doing something for an oil and gas rig. So yes, true, you are right. Hanson,
hello. Can you get me?
Yes, Hanson, we can get you in.
Okay, thank you. My name is Engineer Hudson Marube. I work in Rubis, the previously known as Kenokobe. My main specialty area is what you call gas, or what you mostly call it the lowest cadre of usage of the gas. So that one now involves what you call installation, the safety part of it, the maintenance, the education of the lowest cadre, and how they use it. Thank you for bringing up this information. I like it. I've been looking forward to it. I've been sharing so many information so that we can have this information. I could not get a feedback. Thank you for this one. My first point, the reason why Kenya, where we are, or East Africa, where we are, number one, we are where we call economical country, because this whereby people who deal mostly with business, they're interested with mostly about their income. I put an investment in this way. I expect this by the end of the year. That's the reason why if you look at Kenya right now, how many farms do we have who are owned by engineers who are getting the contract or the product? Can you call it the contract or big major development? Minimum. Because the big market is owned by some people who don't understand the engineering part of it. Once they get the tender, is when now they look for the engineers. That's where we are right now. For us to be able to make this, what we call oil and gas, more benefitable to each and almost everybody on the ground, we engineers, we need to take that first mantle as the people, the custodian of this information. So now this one means all our, can I call it our own organization, that's IK, EBK, they need to have a clear structure whereby they are being able to make it clear, direct, that any organization which deals with engineering, we must have an engineer representative in that area. I've seen so many conversations we have been having. So many people are asking about EPRA. Those people who are there, most of them, they are not in engineers. I've interacted with them the same way you have said, because last week we had a meeting with them on Thursday and Friday, where they are bringing about the information about reticulation, how we do reticulation part of it, registration part of it, and the safety behind the usage of the gas. Tomorrow, we are having a message behind what you call the tankers, the people who transport petroleum product from Mombasa, either across the country to our neighbor countries. So when we go to those guys, they usually have what you call, how can I make it? Can I make it a basic information? But when you ask more information behind that, Some of them, they say we are much more in details consultation with KEPS. This is where we need the engineers like EBK and IK to be much more interested in those fields for us to have engineers who have information. But some people here saying they have experience of 30 years, 35. You guys, you should be those people who are behind that system, so that because you know what's happening, you know what we need, you know where the gap is, you know what we need in the future. But when we have some people who don't have this information, I'm not saying some people they don't know or something is happening. It's good everybody to be given opportunity. But when we have an opportunity, let the engineers be behind that system because they understand the nitty-gritty of the information that we need for the industry to move ahead. Because in all those cadre, we have the engineers, we have the legal team, we have the business people, we have so many of them. So engineers can be given a priority in one way or another, or 2 or 3 seats, for them to have that clear information. So it's a good idea. But first of all, my first point, my first comment, EBK and IK, they need to step up their game. Point number two I need to make, we come to this point, what we call registration of the engineers. When we are given some breakdown information, we have so many graduate engineers. There's a gap between graduate engineer, then we go to professional engineer, and then we have consultation engineer, and then finally we have what we call accredited checker. We need this organization to mobilize people and move ahead to make sure that each and every engineer is moving behind that cadre for them to have most information, for them to be able to be on the field, to know what they need to do, what they are doing, so that whenever we have what we call human resource behind what we are talking right now. I've had some people here asking a question, why not for us to have a refinery in Turkana as opposed to having it in Mombasa? Some of us, we have given answer, and I agree with them. First of all, it's economical part of it. And if you check what we have only in Kenya, it cannot sustain for you to have a refinery in Turkana, because it cannot sustain. You cannot get your return, in short. But again, there is a fear which we have of what we call corruption in Kenya. We run away automatically from this thing, but this is the thing that is hitting the country from left, right, center, almost everywhere. Because almost everybody wants that cake of something, but it doesn't understand the logic behind it. So for us engineers, please, let's not this be the first and the last meeting. I can even prefer, like we have it almost each and every month. We share out information. We call up EBK. We call up EBK, EPRA, and the KEPS on board for them to give us what they're thinking. What are they planning for? When they make these regulations and the standards, are they involving the engineers, the people who deal with it on the ground? So my take is, let's do it each and every time. We are willing to share more information. But one thing, engineers, let's take our mantle. Let's not sleep. Right now, if you check what is happening in the country now, we have what we call the bottom-up economic. Right now, they are doing what we call affordable housing, and each house is going to be having, as what they are saying, they are going to be reticulated, meaning each house you don't need to carry your cylinder. You are going to have a gas, which is metered to your place the same way like electricity is metered. Then you bill at the end. Do we need to teach these people this information? And who are supposed to take this mantle to teach these people on the ground what they need to do, the safety behind it, the standards which needs to be followed for all people to be able to be safe, to avoid what happened in Muradi. Because gas is the best thing that can happen, and it's the worst thing that can happen if it's mishandled. So please, my humble request is this. We have so many people here who have this information who have been on the ground. They have been doing these things 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years. Please, let's make this organization under IK and under EBK. We have a discussion. We raise our concern. We call on board KEPS, EPRA, and all the body which is behind this information. Then for us to have a candid discussion and make it clear. There's one thing I love from the legal team of what you call the lawyers and the doctors. It's hard for you to venture into their field. Why? Because they safeguard their field. They want their field, their people to do it. What are we doing as engineers? Please, let's make sure we safeguard our first of all our field, and then we have the standards, we do it the right way, and then everything at the end, it will be right. My take and my last comment. Let's have these meetings each and every month, each and every week. We share out. People have information outside here, and then we are willing to share. Just contact us, contact anybody who is willing to give out the information for us to share and to make our country great. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanson. Thank you for your comments. I think we need to comment on Dan, yours was just a comment, and Hanson, you have touched on a few things. I just want to concur with you that yes, but we have quacks in the field of engineering, especially in the oil and gas. Very many of them. I agree with you. But Hanson, who also awards these tenders to these people? It's the same engineers, it's ourselves. If you look at, for example, one of the in this parastatals or other companies, the tender valuation committee is full of engineers. Maybe it's 50% engineers and 50% other procurement, finance, and other gigs. But it's us engineers who award these people. So it's also upon us, individuals who work in this industry, to adhere to the requirements and practices of the industry, the international standard practices, the requirements of ethics, of industrial practices and industrial regulations, so that we don't end up with accidents and issues and loss of money, loss of life, like things that have happened. In terms of EPRA collaboration with IBK, I think yes, the IEK, our secretary is here. I think they are recording this, and the minutes from here, I think, will be submitted, and maybe if there's anyone here, maybe the president, if he was here, could have answered you better. Martin Rotich. And there was another one. Where was that guy? Another Rotich also was there. Okay, Eric. Let's start with Martin, then Eric. Martin.
Thank you, Kennedy. I think you've given out a very informative presentation. That was nice. I was drawn to a comment on petroleum exploration and petroleum exploration, drilling, and production. Currently, I work in geothermal drilling as a drilling engineer. And there's something that you mentioned that we do not have any company with drilling rigs that can do oil, which I tend to differ, because if you look at the number of rigs we have in Kenya, of course, it's being held by parastatals. There's no private company with any one of them. Those rigs were designed to drill oil. They were not designed to drill geothermal. So in my opinion, when it comes to drilling, I think we have enough capacity in the country when it comes to drilling. In my opinion, the big challenge is on exploration, because if you don't have good geoscience data to point out where to drill, then you are in big trouble. I remember there's a geologist from Talo who said looking for oil is like looking for a needle in a stack of A. So pinpointing where the oil is or the gas is a difficult undertaking. But drilling, in my opinion, I think we have some capacity. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I think we know each other. I know your rigs very well, and I had proposed to one of your rigs to go up there. If you remember, some people came to your office for the acquisition of the rig for upstream drilling. Thank you so much for that comment. Where is Eric Kingetich?
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, Eric, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, I think my issue was just a comment. And first of all, I should say that the presentation was okay. And this will mark as the baseline of more discussion going forward. When it comes to exploration, maybe in oil and gas, it is a multidisciplinary engagement, which involve both the geoscientists, the engineers in there. So at the end of the day, we are looking for that thing which we call oil and gas. I had visited a place that is in custody of NOC in Makadi, that is the Makadi sub-basin, where they were trying to see, they were doing seismic studies, the TMs, all those studies to pinpoint exactly where that oil is. And unfortunately, I don't know if, I think the people that were contracted that time, they were unable to give real-time information and advise the people who are supposed to do the drilling on where and how to do the same. What am I trying to say? The problem is that we could be having all these things, but the issue is we need more capacity building on these people so that we can be able to use our own people to do exactly what is supposed to be done in oil and gas. Another issue on the issue of regulation, I work with EPRA, and so far so good. There are 7 regulations that are on the draft stages pertaining upstream only, ranging from the issue of local content all the way from the drilling point to the transportation and how the handling will be done. So when all is done, definitely there will be further engagement on how this regulation can be suited best to fit the country and the development in oil and gas. So that is what I can say for now. This is just the baseline, and we're hoping to engage more so that in case of anything, we'll be able to bring on board everybody and then ensure that there is seamless collaboration between parastatals. Like I remember when we were doing that visit in Makadi, the NOC, which are the custodian of that block, that is block 14T, now it has been changed to 11T, they were requesting that I don't know who will going to help us talk to GDC so that we can find one of their rigs and then use it here, So we need also to give, like a leeway for these people, for these parastatals to engage seamlessly without problems, or of course, without long procedure, bureaucracy, and what have you. So that is my submission. This is a very nice beginning, and we are in for good things. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I can hear you. I know when that guy who was drilling the gas, was drilling for water in Magadi, found gas, that issue came up. I think that was last year when NOC was looking for how to cap or how to plug that well there. But anyway, I've got information on that last year when you were doing that with the other guys in the team, in the NOC team. Thank you so much, Eric from EPRA. Anyone else? Any other question? There being no other question, I would like to call on Tom to. Tom, could you give us your closing remarks, and any member from the team or from our task force team who has a closing remark, please, the floor is yours. Oh, there's one guy, Engineer Rastas. Engineer Rastas, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very good presentation. I'm Engineer Rastas Mongera, Chairman of Engineers Board of Kenya. And I want to comment because there was some sentiment that MBK is an impediment. I want to assure engineers that MBK is a facilitator, not a motivator. Currently, in addition to the 3 disciplines that have been mentioned, we have so many emerging disciplines now, which are recognized by the board, one of them being oil and gas, as was mentioned. We have mechatronics, we have aerospace, we have chemical, we have biomedical, we have marine, we have mining, we have telecommunications, We have electronics and communication, and so on and so forth. So the board, because of the law which was changed in 2016, the board does not enter and inspect the universities without invitation. Those who are mentioned, they have ongoing programs which are not recognized by the board. I encourage them to come forward. They approach the board, they write to the registrar and invite us, and we shall come. We have even formed engineering accreditation committee, which has been given autonomy by the board to fast track registration. And this is in line with our move to accede to the Washington Accord, where our engineers will be globally competitive, so that we stop just importing engineers, but we start also exporting their skills. So there is a lot in stock, and if there's anybody having any challenges, either as an institution teaching engineering programs which have not been recognized by the board, or an individual who has graduated locally or internationally. Somebody was talking of engineers training in the diaspora and going back. We register so many of them from all over, from Europe, from Asia, from Latin America, from Africa, from everywhere, because we have a mechanism and a system of checking those programs to make sure that they meet our standards. We this June, God willing, we shall accede to Washington Accord, and our engineers will be globally competitive. Even when there are jobs here now, they will no longer be invited to join foreigners, but they will have a space. They will have their own space, and they can even invite foreigners to join them. Finally, I want to appeal. There is one who gave various categories of engineers: graduate engineers, professional engineers, consulting engineers, accredited checkers. I want to appeal to graduate engineers. That category is a temporary category because it is given time, only 3 years after graduating, and you enter the board register, then you train practically, after which you sit your professional examination and you become a professional engineer. So mine is to appeal to all graduate engineers in this gas and the oil field and the other engineering disciplines to apply to the board and sit professional exam and become professional engineers. We run pre-submission conferences just to guide them on how to prepare for their reports and how to sit the exams and what to expect. And therefore, there should really be no excuse not to be able to transition. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you, Engineer, for that wonderful comment, and thank you for gracing this presentation. There were several issues that members here were talking about. I think there was one student who asked a question that maybe you can reply to. It's that there being no opportunities for them after graduating. What measures is IEK or EBK, for that matter, because you are here, Engineer Mongera, taking to ensure that, or to make sure that the skills that they have acquired don't get lost and they find somewhere to practice? I think maybe the student was asking things like internship programs. Engineer Mongera?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. We have undergraduate engineers internship program that is very well structured, and it is in various It is in various categories. First, there is the MBK in Graduate Engineer Program, where we take students and they link them to the industry and they train for 3 years. We have up to 5 cohorts, and we are in the process of clearing on funding to receive the 60 cohort. This number actually otherwise is small, but if you may recall, in June 2023, the president, while opening the EPC in Naivasha, committed that the government to triple this number and make sure that very soon we shall absorb all graduate engineers on this program. Again, this year, when the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service was closing the EPC in Nairobi, he was committed in the next 5 years, in the next 3 years, that program will absorb about 5,000 graduate engineers. So there are plans that are in place that we are following up to make sure that these programs are done. We are also encouraging those corporates, especially in government, quite a number of them are attending this meeting, who have mega projects to allocate, and they are under contract, to allocate a very small percentage of their contract sum, about 1%, on graduate engineer training. And this is a commitment we're encouraging all Kenyans to have a lab for their young ones so that they can get a relevant experience. This will also take quite a number of graduate engineers for 3 years, and then they become professionals. We have also that program, which is normally conducted by the Public Service Commission of Kenya. And we have liaised and continue to liaise with the PSC to make sure that the engineers they take under that program are assigned to institutions which have engineering activities so that they can get the relevant program. Finally, we have those graduate engineers who have been employed and direct. They are lucky they have gotten jobs. We are also encouraging the employers to give them a chance to train as graduate engineers, not to plunge them into jobs as I heard some people talk of maintenance, so that they can go through that structure and program, they become graduate engineers, and they can therefore move up and create more room for other graduate engineers to come and take those spaces. On job opportunities, there are 2 major policy strides the board has achieved. Number one, in 2022, August, the engineering scale of fees were gazetted and they are in force. 2023, the government went ahead and included them in the procurement regulation, just like I think it is clause 205. Just like the lawyers are given a chance to quote according to their scale of fees, engineers are also in that category. And the purpose here is when you look at those scale of fees, there are skills to pay graduate engineers going forward with the experience. So again, we encourage those in business to apply the scale of fees so that they can have room to take in graduate engineers and train them. And again, recently, last month, the Public Service Commission released the career professional guidelines for engineers in all sectors of engineering, in all engineering disciplines. And this clearly shows jobs, technical jobs are preserved for engineers if they are of engineering nature. And again, the board will be coordinating this together with the ministries that have engineering opportunities to make sure that graduate engineers enter this skill and they move around the land. So there's a lot that has been done by the board. Of course, we understand the economy, why it is. It is not only for engineers, but I can assure you the board is taking every measure to make sure that engineers remain relevant and they get opportunity to go into the engineering job market. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. Thank you so much for that elaborate explanation on what you are doing and how you are taking the engineering fraternity forward. Just one question for you. And this is involved procurement of engineering services in the country. One member here, Engineer Timothy Kiva, asked a question that how can EBK, because you are the main brother here, how can you block off or shut off quacks through public procurement or through collaboration with public procurement authority in ensuring that engineering services are offered by engineers? I think in his presentation, in his question, he might have been asking that if there's a way that you would be requiring for more certification for engineering services to ensure the integrity and standards of the engineering practices that they are in procurement.
I think I would throw that question back to him because as I've seen, the board has put measures in place to give engineers opportunity to work in their professional field. When it comes to procurement, it very much depends on what the procuring entity is looking for. If in the terms of reference or in job descriptions they have written, they are not very clear on the looking for engineering services, just professional engineers, consulting engineers, then they'll get quacks to get those kind of jobs to do. As I said earlier on, we have now scale of fees in place, and they are recognized through procurement regulations, and is for the procuring entities again to mention that the scale of fees for engineers will apply. And therefore, engineers who compete on technical aspects of the province, of the project, not compromising any technical aspects, because the financial bit has been sorted. You can't quote less than what is in the fees, but you can quote more if you want, and if you think you have a chance of winning. We are also encouraging. We also, as you may be aware, every end of March, we gazette the engineers who are of good standing with MBK. And currently for this year, we have gazetted those engineers. And anybody looking for engineering services in all the disciplines again can just make reference to that Gazette notice. It is in the Kenyan Gazette website. It is also in MBK website. And it is available for people to choose engineers. Of course, if you are an investor or a developer and you decide to ignore the engineering services and things go wrong, then you sit back and blame engineers, but you never engage them in the first place. So that is where we are. But so we are encouraging procuring entities, including government agencies and ministries and departments, to just be mindful of knowing that engineering can only be done by professional engineers and not otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer. Thank you. I think time is going. I can see just one final hand. Engineer Julius, a brief one because I think time has gone. Something, if you have a question, you can go ahead now. Engineer Wade.
Yes, I was asking, why are we encouraging the industry to apply scale of fees instead of enforcing it? Visit even the companies and find out how much they are paying graduate engineers, how much they are paying professional engineers. Because if we are not enforcing it, they are going to continue paying peanuts to professional engineers and graduate engineers. Maybe Engineer Mogera Erastus can clarify on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer. Engineer Erastus, something has been thrown to you. I think this is the final one so that we close over. Engineer Erastus, you are there?
Yeah, yes. If I got your question right, you're asking why we are applying the scale of fees or why we developed them. The background to this is there was competition, very stiff competition. Of course,
Engineer, if it is in order to interrupt you, the senior, what I was asking is, you have the scale of fees. Why are we making it like voluntary? We are encouraging people to apply it, the industry to apply it, instead of enforcing, making it mandatory. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that is why I said it now depends. I mean, it is up to us really to make sure that the scale of fees work. We have done the much we can. When they were ungazetted, we also went ahead and made sure that they form part of procurement rules. It is procuring entities now who should use those rules because they are already in procurement. Of course, if one is charging a scale of fee, I mean less than the scale of fees, and that is reported to the board, then the board can use provisions of Section 53 of the Act to enforce, and our enforcement and compliance outfit, which we do. But it's again, you can't police everywhere. It is for people to know this law is there, please apply it, and let us move in the spirit of helping engineers to help you, because where engineers are fully involved in the activities, even in senior management positions, you can even look at those state departments ended by engineers, whatever they are, you find a lot of differences and so on and so forth. So, but we can't police anywhere. We have put this scale of fees in place. People, please help us to have them implemented. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, members, and thank you, members of the Secretariat. Anyone from the Secretariat with a closing remark? Tom, Dr. Dorothy, you have anything?
Yeah, I think, Ken, I think the oil and gas presentation, I think we tried to squeeze it within the time we could, but you could see, even from the engagements, I think it's quite a very interesting topic, and I'm glad we were able to at least try and get the issues alive to the rest of the members. Just my view, which I think is also key, is that oil and gas is facing a lot of forces, resistance and all, but as engineers, we solve problems, and the solutions to all the problems that we face. Today, there's a dilemma between renewable energies and oil and gas. But oil and gas is in East Africa. I think there have been comments within the team that we can actually integrate within the region and harness the resource by pulling together. Why I say this is because the opportunity then becomes revenue, because debt is a big issue within East Africa and all our countries. And the way to get financing is probably to look at it in terms of climate financing. We can get money through climate financing, through our renewables, and use that to, build infrastructure or invest in oil and gas. Manufacturing becomes a key thing. People are talking about electrical vehicles. We can use the money from oil and gas to open manufacturing hubs within East Africa. So just some thoughts of how everything plays together to make sure that things move and we solve problems as engineers. Just my thoughts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you so much, members of Secretariat, for putting up this presentation. Thank you so much, members, for keeping this time and listening to us. We appreciate that so much. Thank you so much, and have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Good night.
Bye.